to see so many people here. I didn't expect there could be so many audience. And normally we have a lot of wrong assumptions that we can, either this internationalization is not important or is too difficult to do, or it is a trivial thing to do. So when I think about what kind of message I want to deliver in this talk, I really think probably it's more important for me to clarify those wrong assumptions, since I think the technical issue itself is not that important. And you can always check our documentation reference to the samples to get the thing right. So basically that is the whole scheme of my talk. And I want to explain a little bit about this, the word there, the funny internationalization. In fact, this is not just for fun. If you put this string in your application in the very beginning, it can help you capture a lot of problems. I noticed in the GWT mailing list that there is some people posting about the application does not work, certain character did not display whatsoever. If they put these things in the very beginning, they will figure out those problems in the very early stage. Okay, so at first I want to talk about why we really care about this internationalization. You see, I think this data is a little bit old. This is probably 2 or 3 years old, but the main idea is there. And probably the trend now is more obvious than before. For example, if the blue bar, that's the English. If you only support English, okay, you have that many users. And if you support the top 16 language, the bar shows you that you almost have 3 times of user. And if you support top 40 language, and the bar shows you the ratio there. I think for the first language, for English language, you have all your application logic there. You did most of your hard work. You make your application look very fancy. Just do a little bit more work. You can reach 3 times of user, and you can target all those potential markets. I think that's probably is could be a life or death choice for a certain application. I will talk more about this. So in the pre-slide, we mainly focus on the user. But in fact, in money-wise, the non-US market could be more important than the US market. I remember some statistic. This is from some big company like IBM, Microsoft. Probably the number it can be varies a little bit, but it's around 40 to 60 ratio. They say they got 40% of the money from US market. Well, the 60%, I guess, for some company probably is more, is from the international markets. And as GWT is the open source project, I think it might be true for some of your own project. There is more contributor outside US. I used to work for Mozilla project for a while, and also this GWT project. I have my observation about the contributor from those open source community. It seems to me like there is more contributor from Europe and from Australia than US. Probably here people are too busy just earning monies. And the last point, I think this is probably the most important. People always assume, say, okay, we can do this internationalization later. This something that we can patch. Even we do a little more extra work, no problem. Let's be successful here with this language. Is it true? There is a well-known Google product called OCAD. I hope everybody who never heard about OCAD before. Right. So this product was so popular, almost dominant in Brazil, but not that popular here. So if Google didn't do the right thing, didn't address the international market for this product, you might expect to see something very different now. And there is another product. This product I cannot specify the name. Before we even do any internationalization work for this product, we found that 40% of our traffic is from Asia. So if you have the assumption that your user is only this group of people in this country, it might restrict your possibility of being successful. Okay, so now go to the main topic. This is the things I want to mention about today. But as I said, I don't really want to deliver all those technical details, though we will go through one or two examples very deeply to just give you the idea, the things, our motivation, and what is important and what is not. Okay, so this is an overview. This is not specific to internationalized GWT. It's just internationalization. Sometimes we often write I18N. I think probably almost people here should already know this. Between this I and N, there is 18 characters. So just write this I18N. We make it more easier to write. Even though I work in this area for many years, sometimes I specify, pronounce this word still, I have a little bit of difficulty. So this I18N, I think, is easier for me. So this is not coined by me. Practical definition by I18N, we mean two things. The first thing, we enable your application to be usable for international users. Don't need to be translated. Let's say you have an application as a Word documentation, word processor. You can input, let's say, Chinese character or Japanese character, and you can print those characters out. But you still see all those English UI. So that's we call the enable for international usage. And the second part, we want to enable the localization to make it be able to happen. The localization itself is another topic, is another process. So to enable the localization, the main mechanism is through resource separation. Basically, you want the string, all the localizable string can and should stay in a separate place. I want to withdraw this part. In the source code, they can stay in the same place, but when it is being processed, it can be separated and can be merged so that those separated stuff can be sent to translation vendors to get it translated. Of course, there is many things, many functionalities that has specific different behavior across multiple countries and multiple language. And we need to provide a set of library for these things. And the good example is the date-time format and number format. And the last part, normally we measure the maturity of applications internationalization progress. We use these three barriers. First is something just other than English, another language. People will often use another Latin language. It's very similar to English. And then there is the CJK. I think this talk, we often complain about the browser, how they behave differently. But this internationalization part, the browser really release a lot of work from us. Nowadays, the CJK stuff is no longer a big issue anymore. Since most of the things, if you do it right, you can get it for free from browser. And the BiDi stuff. The BiDi stuff is not just another direction, it's two direction. Two direction mixed, that make it very, very complicated. So the design goal of all the INTN components of GWT, we have at least a couple of them there. Now, first, we know many people, they are very familiar with this, with Java, and they know how to do localization with Java, and we want to leverage your experience leverage your Java experience. And second, we do not really want to copy everything Java does. Some things, I would say, as a JDK, some of the API, they didn't do it very right. At least there is room for improvement. So we didn't restrict ourselves. If we feel we need to change something, we will change it. But it turned out to be not so many, and many developers, they didn't notice that the difference, because the UI they tend to use is the UI we provide. And the third part, this is not only restricted to INTN, fast end user experience. We emphasize end user experience instead of just developer experience. In fact, whenever there is a confliction, we veered toward the end user side. And for some of the big corporations, they already have some kind of localization infrastructure there. And that's one of the reasons that we choose to use this property file to do those localizable string. And we have something new going on that can also leverage your existing localization infrastructure. So this part I want to go a little bit detail to explain the localization mechanism. In fact, don't really want to cover all the technical details, but just want to expose the problem and the way, as an example, how we solve similar problem. So you face this problem, you have your application ready, and you want to present your application to many users. They speak multiple language. How are you going to do it? A very naive approach. How do we do English? We do other language. We have the English copy of HTML, JavaScript, and we can just dupe the effort and replace the string, another set for another language. If you really have to maintain those files, the synchronization and all those other things got involved will soon drag you down. You will figure out that these things does not scale. It doesn't work. You will have all kind of problem. And we can embed all those message from different language into just one single file or couple of files. That will work for some of the situations. Say you just support a few language, and the message itself is not that much. That probably will work, but it's not ideal. So I guess this is the solution many people is using now. They separate those strings into separate file. Well, they can load those files depending on what user's current locale is. This is a good solution, but this is not an ideal solution. You have a couple of files you need to download, and that's extra HTTP round trip. And in your application, you need to switch. Okay, I'm in this locale. I need to reference this string and get it there. It takes time. There is the indirect reference. And the worst thing, I didn't, I think this thing I will talk about in the later part of the slide. And with this Ajax, and some people have this smart idea, okay, I can almost drag it in any message as I need it. This is a further indirection and could lead to a lot of HTTP round trip, and this could be even slow. But it is useful in certain situations. In certain situations, some of the big chunk of message, you User rarely need them. So it doesn't make sense in those situations. And to see, let's try to look at the same problem from another perspective. And this time, we look at the message. So we want to just show user in your application a message, say, welcome, your name. And then we tell user how many visitors we have now. These things, many of the web pages have this kind of thing. Very simple, should be very simple. And this is how you do if you manually write those JavaScript code. You write it this way. This is the most efficient way to do this job. But how translators are going to translate these parts? We have a lot of string fragments. And you see that this, I use given name, family name. I didn't use first name and last name, since that could be misleading. In country, let's say in Asia, we usually put your family name first. So you need to switch the position. And also that there should be no space between the two. So there is all those kind of various things that could happen. Do you expect your translator to write a different JavaScript statement for you? It's almost nearly impossible. So Java has a good solution. They say, OK, you can specify this format, the thing using this template. This is the first argument. This is the second, and that's the third. And with some kind of formatter, we will put those arguments there. Then you have the right string. But the things doesn't exist in JavaScript. But we can write some kind of magic function to do this work. We scan the string, and we replace the certain interesting arguments with the real variable, and we get the string. In fact, that's a very nice solution if you write handily written JavaScript code. But you need to write this magic formatter. It's some extra work. And it's not trivial to make it work right. And suppose somebody do this way. What's wrong with this? You have the format, will be this string, and you have given name and number, but you forgot last name.
Also, given name and number are no longer an array.
Oh, yeah, you're right. This is thank you.
Also, there are parts of the world where they don't have family names.
So your application, the JavaScript don't complain, and you put it on your website. But when user visited this page, when they got the message, something will happen. And then you maybe got a call in the time that you least expect some such things.
On the other side of the world, coming from China.
Anyway, so this is how you do this, how we solve this whole problem within GWT. For each message, we have a method. We define a method here, and the method can take arguments. So for simple string, we just have this method. Say hello world, you got the hello world message. And for the parameterized string, we have a method that can take no number of arguments. And then you specify your string in property file, say hello world or welcome message, whatever. This, I think it should be very, very familiar to your Java programmers. And it's a very natural thing to do. And it is the right thing to do. And now here, back in GWT, in your source code, all you need to do is you ask GWT to create this message concrete class for you, instance, concrete instance, my messages. And you can reference all those messages you define here. Either hello world or whatever. And here you use those messages. Say, okay, this label, I just want to say hello world. And the second, this part, I pass in my given name or last name and the number. And the third, oh, I already know the given name or whatever. I just put it there. So this is how you write GWT code. As you see, both this screen and this screen, you have a lot of things going on there. And you tell GWT what your intention is. But when GWT compile the things is no longer that complicated. That is generated code by GWT. Now, for the first part, I don't know why we use this kind of thing. This is the compiler's choice. The compiler chooses the most efficient way to represent those class names, those variables. But that's something we don't need to worry about. The key points here, see this hello world now is just a simple variable, and you can reference. In previous, I think a version before 1.4.60, we even inline this message, this string, inside the function call. And we no longer do that. There is a reason. And these things, we found out that if we do it this way, it's even more efficient. Especially in the loop. Okay, if you have a string within a loop, every time the loop will construct a new message, a new object. So you save a lot of time. And that's the tricky thing you don't even to know. GWT will take care of it. You get it for free. And see this second part. It's almost the same thing as your handily written JavaScript code. You can't do anything better than that. And this part, suppose you already got the name and got the number. We just concatenate all the string together for you. There is no longer no string operations. You have the static string in your application. And if you handily written all those things, it is almost impossible to achieve that, right? So there is something I would think is even more important for developers. See, for all those three examples, they all have problems. And all those problems can be caught by the time when we compile your Java code into JavaScript code. And that's the message you got. This is the extra message I captured from Eclipse when I compile those 3 lines. So the first line, this is very obvious. The second and the third, the error message itself might not be obvious. But once the compiler key point you, oh, this location, there is a problem, it is obvious for you what is the problem. And if you don't fix the problem, the compiler will not let you go. Once you fix those problems, and you will be guaranteed that your code won't have any problem in runtime when user actually reference those strings. So now we are going to talk about a little bit this technical stuff, deferred binding, how this is the underneath mechanism, how we make those things happen. See, at the time when you write the code, you didn't bind the string with the place where you reference to it. GWT code, we bind it for you at the time of compilation. So the binding thing is deferred to another stage, to this stage when you create this class. And user can specify the locale they want to use in 2 ways. The first, you all know probably with query string, say this is the locale I want to use. Bring me that your application in this language. Or another way, I just want to give user a link. Say this link, this is for, let's say, Spanish. Oh, here, this is German. If you visit this link, it will bring you to the German UI. So this is just the two-way to give user the control or give developer the control how to control what kind of locale it will be used in their end application. And let's talk a little bit about permutation. And this is, in fact, I think is very important. How we make it possible to maximally minimize the download size. You don't really want to, send user even a single byte of either its data or your code that the user will never use it. So if our application, our user, if it's from, let's say, from Japan, it doesn't really make sense for us to send those English string there because they will not use it. So with this permutation at the compile time, GWT compiler will generate multiple copy of your application, of the JavaScript code. And it will deliver only a single copy of such thing to user, as it's know what the user's locale they want. So user will only get what they need with this method. So it is from the end result, it's like you are maintaining a lot of, you're having just your application developed target for this group of users for this locale. But the whole thing has been taken care of by GWT. You only have one source file to maintain. I didn't include those property files. Of course, you need to have a lot of property files, and each one need to be translated. I think I have an important point I want to point out. we can talk about that later. So this is a major mechanism we've been used, static string internationalization, and why it is good. It is smaller. We tried our best to eliminate all the things the user do not need. And we use a lot of technique to optimize, to make things even smaller, even more efficient. Let's say if a string that has never been referenced, even though this is the English application and you have the English string, but if it is never used, it will not end up in the generated JS code. And if something can be inline, can be statically at the compile time resolved, we will resolve them. So all those optimization technique make the code as smaller as possible and faster. In JS, smaller is faster. With smaller code, it's download fast. With smaller code, the interpreter, the JS engine in browser is happy, as less string to parse, to interpret. And with thinking about those optimization technique, we tried our best to eliminate the indirect reference, the level of reference that is needed. We keep only those things that's absolutely necessary. So when there is no middle structure, no variable reference in the middle, you get the most efficient JavaScript code in your, in your application. So, and the third, robust. That's the point as I mentioned. If you did something wrong, if the compiler passes it, it will just end up with user probably will just see a wrong message. But there will be absolutely no runtime application error, no disasters. So the point here, we didn't say, okay, if you, with this compile time check, it will capture all your mistake. No. If, just say you switch the family name and given name, the compiler will let you go. That's your mistake. And this GWT compiler will not capture such things. But it's not a disaster, my point. You just deliver a wrong message to user, and it's not that bad. It's just not good enough. So with this static string internalization, in fact, we have 3 classes now. And the things I'm talking about mainly is this message, since string is our major concern. So with this message interface, I should say, you can deal with parameterized string, and you can deal with simple string as well. And for this constant, not only we can do string, we can do numbers, booleans, maps, but the restriction is you cannot no longer do this parameterized string. And so normally, I think I would suggest people, if you just need string, you go with this message. But in near future, we might provide a more powerful, unified interface to do all those things within one interface. And the constant with lookup. This is just a constant with additional functionality that allow you to resolve the string using the property key. And the good part, for some application is needed, but this flexibility, there is a price. Since the GWT compiler no longer knows which string will be used, will not be used. So we cannot optimize those unused string away. So this is the little price you have to pay. And I want to quickly skim this part. GWT compile property file is no difference from a Java property file, except that our property file allow you to use UTF-8 character directly. You no longer have to stay with those /u encoding. There are if anybody, really ever edit such file, it's a lot of inconvenience, because you don't know what it really means. You have to use some tools to check it up. And the property file, we have a bunch of property files, each for each locale, and the compiler will take care of it. So dynamic string internationalization, this is just a way for you to use if you have an existing application. GWT, not every GWT, that application is written from scratch using GWT. If you have some existing application, in fact, you can use those, you can take advantage of all we offer. But in that case, mostly I think probably you already have some kind of localization mechanism. Localized string is somehow already exists either here or there. And this way, GWT allow you to reference those strings. So this is not the right way, a recommended way to do localization if you don't have to. So you can skim all those parts. Just look at this. The last point, I think that's enough. The dictionary is just a way for you to access native JavaScript data. It can be string, it can be something else. If you really want to do something else, that's fine. No, this is a very convenient way to do such things. Okay, a word of locale. Currently, we are no longer stay with the JDK locale model. We are using the BCP47, but we are backward compatible with the Java JDK locale model. So don't nervous. Your application won't be broken. We just now be able to support more locales. The other day I say we are supporting 400 locales. I think the number will increase by 40-something in near future. So this is the typical localization process. I don't want to read all those parts. You can check detail, check our documentation. This is the very easy stuff. And probably if you do localization, it's nothing, unfamiliar with for you. This part, GWT anti library. This data type and number format, everybody need it, but everybody just need it a little bit. So this part, but people really, if you don't have a good library support, you have to spend a lot of time to get it right. And we get it right for you. All those things we support right now, 400 locales. And it's all on the client side. And besides our API designs, the one thing I want to boast about, let's say this number format. The number format in the ICU implementation that we use as a reference implementation is around 10,000 lines of Java source code. And in our implementation, we basically do the same thing, but with only about 1,000 lines. That's before I put in comment. So if you count the line number now, it should be 1,500, but it's around that number. And another point, if you use those functions, not all those whole 1,000 lines of Java code will get into your generated source code, only the part you really need. So I think at this point, I can convince you that you can feel free to use those variables, to use these libraries for your data type and number formatting without sacrifice your speed, sacrifice your code size. And this is the way how we use it. Very simple. You get a format, you get a date, and you get the string. And you can pass it a string and get the time. Can you think of any other anything different from this? I think is it's not right. So for number format, we also support a set of predefined number formatting. So we do offer you the flexibility for you to specify your pattern, but probably I guess you may not know what kind of pattern is good in that locale. So we have that a set of predefined pattern for you. So this is for just using the example of English. In US, we have full, long, medium, and short. Number format, the same thing. And in number format, in fact, we also include the currency support. So it's not really just the number format. And we have both number format and number pass. Same thing, we have predefined pattern, decimal, currency, percentage, scientific, and we even support those native digits. This is the Arabic native digits. In some country, they do use these things instead of these things. Okay, so this will be a summary of my today's presentation. So I think internationalization is really something. If you think internationalization is important, I think I convince you that internationalization is important in my first several slides. And that could be one of the a factor why you choose GWT instead of something else. GWT team, we address internationalization in the very beginning, in very early stage. I remember Bruce once talked about, before I put in internationalization feature there, I could not sleep well. He's not here. Okay. The second part, in Google, we have internationalization team that's focusing on those issues. We have half of the previous Netscape team and half of the ICU team, and probably if people familiar with those Unicode guys. Let's say Mark Davis, the Unicode chairman, is in our team. So we are pretty confident that GWT could be a big help to help you successful in internationalization, to help you to address the international markets. And we are still working hard to provide more features. The BiDi stuff, we already have something there. And data picker, Cebu is not here. Cebu has the implementation. So Cebu's implementation is, should work for CJK and for BiDi. And Bob Walter has this wonderful immutable response bundle, but you need to, you can check his documentation, very good stuff. Okay, I feel you don't feel this way.
Any questions? Shenzhen?
Yeah, I can answer some question if we have time.
Couple minutes.
Sure. Go ahead.
So I wanted to ask about best practice. So you have in the example, my constant, which is created by GWT.create method, which basically has inherited implement the interface to get the localized string.
Can you repeat your question?
Okay. So my
I
best
have problem understanding.
so you have you call GWT.create and create a how to say instance of the local interface. I don't know how to call it.
We have an interface for all the possible strings.
Exactly. Yeah. So what's the best practice to put that variable? Is this should be a singleton pattern? Shall I use a singleton pattern, or shall we pass that variable for every method as a parameter? Or
Okay, so I guess your question is, what is the practice? Should we have multiple interface or just one interface?
Well, he's asking, how do you get this reference of the interface?
Oh, how do you? Okay. I think this question depends on your context, but personally, I think for most of the simple application, singleton stuff should work very well.
I should kind of add to that. The parameter to the GWT create method, it's kind of a magic method. You actually cannot pass a runtime value to it, so it always has to be a okay. The parameter to the GWT.create method is it's sort of a magic method. It's not a real method. It's actually kind of like an operator, like the new operator. When the compiler sees it, it's really going to construct an implementation of the class that you're asked for with respect to the deferred binding mechanism. Now the problem is you're asking, well, can I make that a variable? Sort of, can I say GWT.create and then something that's a variable that I maybe get from some config file or from some kind of singleton factory? And the answer is you can't. The argument to the GWT.create method always has to be a class name dot class. It always has to be a class literal. Unless
I think he was just asking, after I get this with the instance back from GWT create, how do I put it so I can access it every day?
Oh, I thought he was saying, can I have sort of like a factory that can build these like GWT.create instances for him, which you can't. I thought that's what his question was.
yeah, my original question is actually you are right, but your information was also very helpful.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, but
And so it actually doesn't hurt to make multiple GWT.create calls for the same class literal in the compiled output, but it's easier just to store a reference to it because it will increase like your compile times and hosted mode times, but it won't actually hurt the end size of your web app. But it doesn't hurt just to keep a single reference and refer to it, from a bunch of different classes or whatever.
We have time for one more question.
go ahead.
Hi. I've used Eclipse's built-in string externalization tools. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys know of anything that can be used, that exists to produce property files and message interfaces that GWT will use.
So the question I don't have to repeat question. Everybody should already heard it, right? Okay. I used the Eclipse externalized string myself once, and I don't like it. But I think we have something much more powerful than that's coming. So we probably only address the externalized string ourselves. Do you want to talk about?
Sure. Well, one thing, if you have a properties file already, you can generate your messages interface using iTunes Creator. There's also work in progress for using annotations to do that, and being able to directly support property files, XLIF files, and extensible other formats.
I would add to that as well, there's a third-party tool that was actually at the product showcase called the GWT Designer. It actually doesn't have the same functionality you just spoke of. It externalizes strings automatically from source code.
Creating the messages interfaces.
I don't know it. Really enough about it, but I do know that if you're referring to externalizing strings that were already in the code, like hard-coded, and then externalizing those to properties files, I do know that.
If you run IETNIM Creator once, it creates a one-line script, which is basically Java and then a main class and then your class name. You can actually just put that into a launch or something, or you put it into ant config and have it automatically.
Okay, so you could use the standard Eclipse externalized string, and then use your IETNIM Creator.
Right now that's a command line
Okay.
script, but you could integrate into ant.
No,
if you want to.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, so thank you, everybody.